half of Greenland's ice sheet began melting this week after an unprecedented warm spell hit the Arctic region. Temperatures were more than 40 degrees above average, leading to an estimated 2 billion tons of ice loss.
Nobody expected this to happen, but a team of international scientists just proved that Greenland's ice fortress has a major weakness. By drilling into the bedrock, they recovered sediment that reveals a terrifying truth about our planet. It turns out that a huge portion of the ice sheet melted away during a period of mild warming similar to what we are seeing right now.
Usually this type of melting doesn't occur until midsummer, and if it happens at all. Well, experts believe that this early melting could impact weather on a global scale.
This is not just a story about ancient mud and rocks. It is a warning that the sea levels could rise faster than any model predicted. See, the past is finally catching up with our very uncertain future. Hidden dirt speaks. The researchers used a method called luminescence dating to figure this out. It sounds complicated, but it basically measures trapped electrons in mineral grains to see when they were last out in the open. The results were shocking. It showed that the ice in this area completely disappeared during the early Holocene period. Back then, the temperatures were only about 3 to 5 degrees warmer than they are right now. We are on track to hit those same temperatures by the year 2100 if things keep going the way they are. This means that even a little bit of warming is enough to melt huge parts of Greenland. The lead scientist, Jason Briner, pointed out that the Holocene was supposed to be a stable time when humans were learning how to farm. If the ice could melt, then without any help from us, imagine what it is doing now with all our carbon emissions. This is a massive deal because the ice sheet holds enough water to raise the ocean levels by more than 20 feet. If the Prudhoe Dome could melt so easily, other parts of the ice sheet might be just as weak. For starters, the drilling process itself was a nightmare. The crews had to deal with freezing blizzards, machines breaking down, and being totally isolated in the middle of nowhere. At one point, the ice actually fractured and they had to use a rock bit to keep going. Their hard work paid off because they proved that the ice sheet is not a permanent relic of the past. It is a shifting, melting giant that responds quickly to the heat. We are seeing things happen now that scientists didn't think were possible until they looked at this ancient dirt. It turns out the history of our planet is hidden in the mud beneath the cold. But the melting didn't just happen at the edges of the island. Ancient tundra returns. If you think the edges of Greenland are the only places in trouble, you need to hear this. Back in 1993, scientists drilled a core right in the center of the ice sheet called GISP2. For decades, those samples sat in a storage locker in Colorado. But recently, a team led by Paul Bierman from the University of Vermont decided to take another look. And get this, they found actual fossils of willow twigs, insect eyes, fungi, and even an Arctic poppy seed. These things were buried under 2 miles of ice. This is unassailable evidence that the very center of Greenland was once a green tundra. It means the ice sheet didn't just shrink a little bit, it vanished almost entirely at some point in the last 416,000 years. The crazy part is that for a forest or a tundra to grow in the middle of Greenland, the ice had to be gone for a long time. Soil takes a while to form, and plants need a stable environment to grow. This tells us that the ice sheet is much more fragile than the old models suggested. Many people used to believe that the center of the ice was the most stable part, but these fossils prove that even the heart of the island can melt away. This discovery completely rewrites what we know about the stability of our world. It shows that in the past, natural warming was enough to turn a frozen wasteland into a living ecosystem. Today, we are pushing the climate even harder than nature ever did. What most people don't realize is how much this impacts our current lives. If the center of the ice sheet melts, it means the whole thing is basically on its way out. The fossils found in the dirt are like a smoking gun. They show that life was thriving in a place that is now covered by thousands of feet of solid ice. This history is a warning for every coastal city on the planet. If it happened before, it can definitely happen again. The researchers are now looking at these tiny insect eyes and seeds to understand exactly what the weather was like back then. Every little piece of biological matter is a clue to how the Earth reacts when things get hot. This isn't just about the past, it's a preview of what's coming. The life that once lived there is also telling us about our own ancestors. Mastodons in the north? Yeah, about that ancient life, it was way more diverse than you might think. A few years ago, your researchers found ancient DNA in northern Greenland that dates back 2 million years. They discovered that this place was once home to mastodons, reindeer, and all kinds of trees and plants. It was a thriving ecosystem that looked nothing like the white desert we see today. But the more recent discoveries are even more interesting for human history. During the early Holocene, about 10,000 years ago, the marine life around Greenland was shifting too. Scientists have been looking at DNA from the bottom of the ocean to track how whales and seals moved as the ice melted. They found species like narwhals and bowhead whales much earlier than they expected, during a time called the Holocene thermal maximum, which was between 10,000 and 5,500 years ago. The water was warm enough for temperate whales to move north. We are talking about fin whales and other animals that usually stay in warmer spots. This is important because it shows how quickly the entire food chain changes when the ice retreats. As the ice melted, it opened up new pathways for animals and for the first humans moving into North America. Our ancestors were likely following these animals across the green tundras and open waters. The DNA evidence is like a ghost of the past. It tells us that Greenland was a land of opportunity for life during these warm spells. But here is the deal. Those warm spells are now becoming our new normal. The Marine cores show a direct link between air temperature and how much sea ice there is. When the ice goes away, the whole ocean changes. We are currently seeing Greenland lose about 280 billion tons of ice every single year. That is a massive amount of fresh water pouring into the salt ocean. It disrupts the currents and changes where fish and whales can live. Hands down. The biological history of Greenland is the best way to see our future. All of this melting is leading to a massive change in the land itself. The future is soaking. The most recent data from February 2026 shows that the melting of the Greenland ice sheet is hitting record levels that are honestly hard to wrap your head around. Northern Greenland has become a total hotspot for ice loss, but the reality is that it is not just about the sun beating down on a white surface. Since the 1990s, the area that melts every year has grown by millions of square miles, and the amount of meltwater being produced has gone up 6 times in just a few decades. The sheer volume of liquid water entering the North Atlantic is staggering, creating a massive freshwater lens that sits on top of the saltier, denser ocean water. But the most unsettling part of this transformation is the emergence of the dark zone. There are now massive blooms of dark algae growing directly on top of the ice, and they are essentially acting like a black t-shirt on a hot day. These algae make the ice significantly darker, which means it absorbs more sunlight instead of reflecting it back into space as it has for millennia. This creates a terrifying feedback loop where the ice melts even faster because it is being stained dark by living organisms that thrive in the warmer, wetter conditions. As the ice disappears, the physical land underneath it is reacting in ways that feel almost alive. The island is actually bouncing back up like a giant spring being released from a heavy weight. Greenland is moving northwest at about 0.8 inches every year because the crushing pressure of all that ice is being lifted. In some coastal areas, the local sea level is actually falling because the land is rising faster than the water can keep up, which sounds like a good thing until you realize that water has to go somewhere else. It is being redistributed across the globe, pushing the ocean toward every other coastline on Earth. But the wild theories start to kick in because nobody expected the island to react this violently or this quickly. Some researchers are looking at the way the Earth's crust is stretching and wondering if this massive weight shift could actually trigger ancient fault lines that have been quiet for millions of years. We are talking about the possibility of glacio-isostatic-induced earthquakes, massive quakes triggered by the crust snapping back into place. These could cause underwater landslides on the continental shelf that would send tsunamis across the Atlantic, hitting North America and Europe with very little warning. There is a deeper, more fringe theory circulating that the ice sheet actually acted as a structural cap for a series of subglacial volcanic systems. Without the weight of the ice to suppress the pressure, we might see a sudden surge in volcanic activity in regions of Greenland that haven't seen fire in eons. The shifting weight is already changing the gravitational pull of the island, which is so massive that it physically pulls the ocean toward it. As that mass vanishes, the gravitational bulge of water around Greenland is relaxing, which accelerates sea level rise in the southern hemisphere. This mass redistribution is even affecting the Earth's wobble, or polar drift. The redistribution of trillions of tons of ice into the ocean is physically tilting the planet's axis, moving the North Pole in a direction it hasn't headed in thousands of years. This isn't just a weather event, it's a planetary rebalancing that could alter the very way our world rotates in space. The military is also reportedly paying very close attention to what is being exposed as the frost retreats. There are whispers that as the ice thins, sensors are picking up magnetic anomalies and structural patterns that don't look like natural rock formations. Some think we might find ancient structures or technology that was frozen over during the last big climatic shift, perhaps remnants of a civilization that existed the last time Greenland was actually green. The Great Unveiling, as some call it, suggests that the ice wasn't just a natural feature, but a shield or a seal covering something significant. As the dark zone algae continues to eat away at the surface, it's not just dirt and twigs being found in the mud. There are rumors of out-of-place artifacts being recovered from the deeper layers, leading to speculation that the military's presence in the Arctic is less about sovereignty and more about archaeological recovery. The deeper we drill into the ice, the more we realize we are dealing with a sleeping giant that is finally waking up. The dirt under the ice and the ancient DNA found in the sediment all point to one thing: the ice sheet is not a permanent fixture of our planet. It has vanished before, and it is clearly starting to vanish again, and it is doing it at a speed that is catching every scientific model off guard. We are currently watching a massive part of our world's history and its physical ballast disappear into the ocean. And once it is gone, we cannot just put it back. The question is no longer if the ice will melt, but how much time we have left before the map of the world is redrawn forever. The past has given us the data, and it is showing us a world that was once green and could be green again very soon, but at a cost to our civilization that nobody is truly ready to pay. It is a global domino effect that started with a few degrees of warming, and now the first tiles are already falling, leading us toward an era where the Arctic is no longer a frozen wasteland, but a new contested frontier of mud, rock, and whatever else has been hidden beneath the white for 100,000 years. Seeing all this evidence, do you think we are the last generation to see Greenland covered in ice? The data from the mud doesn't lie, and the world is changing faster than ever. If you found this discovery as wild as I did, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives.